Africa in general. So, Honorable David Kilgore, you are invited to say what you have to say. Thank you.
Dear friends of South Sudan and Your Excellency, I must tell you a very quick story about a constituent in Edmonton who had his family there. They'd come from Egypt. And ladies and gentlemen, you know what he told me? He said, David, my son is getting into trouble with the law in Edmonton, and I'm going to take my family back to Egypt. And he took his family back to Egypt because he said, only there do the kids not get into trouble. Will you please tell us the secret? We would all like to know. You can imagine as a Canadian how disappointed I was to hear that. And I guess as a Canadian I can tell you the good news is that they went back to Egypt. I stayed about a year, I think, and then they came back to Edmonton. What did you say? They came home? Well, okay, and there are, well, tell you what, I'm going to give you a very short, because you're all going to melt if I don't keep this really short, from an earlier talk. South Sudan has never had an opportunity to decide things for itself until the referendum. You all know, I'm sure, that 98.8% of more than 3 million Southerners voted for independence in a referendum that was deemed free and fair by all observers. After half a century of violence, I believe it's approximately 2 million people died. Many more were displaced. Many came to Canada. Finally, peace was returned to South Sudan. And I hope we should be hearing from you, actually. You've been there for 10 years? 10 years. I hope the chairperson will. Anyway, trying to keep this short. There are so many countries in Africa that are doing well. And my favorite, and I hope perhaps it's yours too, is Botswana. It's one of the best governed countries in the world. Why? What is the secret of Botswana? Canada would like to know that too. And I hope that South Sudan will follow that model and not the Khartoum model that we've all seen in the news lately. One other point that I think is vital is the creation of a multinational state that subscribes to principles of equality, acceptance, respect, freedom, separation of religion and state, peace, collaborative governance, reconciliation initiatives, the need for a creation of national consensus, and awareness of common values. I hope that will continue to be South Sudan's goal. A word about Dr. John Garang, hero to people in South Sudan, Canada, across the world. It breaks your hearts and my heart to know that he died so soon and was not able to be the leader he could have been. He once said that women are the poorest of the poor and the marginalized of the marginalized. Dr. Garang wanted, I believe, equal representation from all groups in South Sudan. And the government, I think he also said, has to fight against corruption, nepotism, and ethnic favoritism. Any government has to fight against that. John Schramm, who is the ambassador to Sudan, he and I went to law school together, he's added that Canada now has 40,000 Sudanese diaspora across this country. Many, of course, many are in Brooks, Alberta, where we met, and I hope that the diaspora will continue to help South Sudan. Finally, and I really am cutting about 80% of this out. Yeah, I'll leave that out. That and that. Well, can I end with a note on Nelson Mandela? Is there anybody here who does not regard Nelson Mandela as being their personal hero? Please note that, Paul, that no hands went up. Well, he's certainly my hero, and he, of course, came to Ottawa. And he said, quote, "I dream of an Africa which is at peace with itself, a dream of the realization of the unity of Africa, where its leaders combine in their efforts to solve the problems of this continent." And so to realize Mandela and John Garang's dream, so many others, including you, who've given their lives for the people of South Sudan, and the millions of others in Africa and around the world praying for a continent for peace and prosperity. Only when we achieve that kind of solidarity will Africa achieve a true African Renaissance, one of peace and prosperity for all. And this free trade agreement for Africa we heard about this week is a huge step in a better direction. How do you pronounce it? Harambee? Do we say that in South Sudan? Harambee? Okay, Harambee. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable David Kilgore.